righty. I think we've got enough time for people to show up. Welcome, everybody. Let's see. So yeah, we have 4 out of 5 TST members. I see Brian Richter, welcome. Alan Lowe, David Scano. Wanted to do a quick welcome to Roxanne. I'll let her pronounce her last name, and I hope I got the first name right at least. But take it away, Roxanne.
Hi, I'm Roxanne Jonca. I'm from Canada, French Canadian. That's where the name comes from. I work for P4 now. I'm very excited to be here. I've been in open source since 2012 at the Eclipse Foundation. I've done many jobs with different open source vendors and foundations, and I'm excited to help with the content and driving adoption and community. And yeah, if you have ideas, just let me know. Love to hear from you.
Great. And I think you're sort of let's see. We had a former person whose role was Denise
Like
Barton, whose role
Denise,
was,
yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was sort of the marketing PR. That's
Content. Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's the right. If
Yeah,
that
just content marketing.
you might wear
Yeah.
more even more hats than I am aware of. I'm aware of. So welcome. Thanks for joining, and love to have your help. I know Michelle has been kind of wearing some of your hats temporarily for a while and looking forward to not wearing them anymore, I think.
Yes.
Yes, happy to have somebody who is much more capable and has much more time to take on
Yep.
marketing for P4.
And whose assigned role is that and doesn't you don't get complaints from the LF if you're doing those tasks, Michelle, I guess, as might
Yes.
have been before.
Yes.
All right, great. Welcome. So yeah, if you anything you would have contacted Denise for before, Roxanne's the person to go for. And but yeah, you can probably always contact Michelle and she'll point you at Roxanne if Michelle's the wrong person for the job.
Yeah. When in doubt, shoot me an email and I'll connect you with whomever is the right person.
Let's see. Um the oh yes, so Google Summer of Code application has been accepted. I don't know, Billy or David, if you have any updates or status or details on that.
I think David is the best person to give the update here.
Yeah, so at this point in time, we are, I don't know if you noticed, but basically new people joining the P4 community, they introduce themselves on Zulip on the GSOC thread. And so basically we are in the phase where the students are reaching the mentors. And if I remember well, they are going to send their proposal at the end of March for let's say for the GSOC, and then we are going to reach Google with our list of projects, and they are going to tell us how many of them are going to be founded, and then the GSOC is going to start. I think end of May, if I remember well. That's it, more or less, roughly. I take a look several times in this day to the timeline, but might be, let's say, little bit different. But this is more or less the timeline and the milestone in the next months.
In
Mhm.
that end of May kickoff, when like we know what projects have been accepted and are going, is that when we typically do that kickoff webinar that
Yeah,
we've done in the past? Okay.
yeah. Okay. Besides that, I sent. Okay, I spoke with Fabian Billy and Roxanne to kind of uh, define a sort of structure for the communication of GSOC. So when we are going to do the kickoff, the wrap-up meeting, the we would like to dedicated post for the mentors and students that are going to yeah, they're going to work on the GSOC project. I would Billy together with a student that joined her before GSOC for the first year, is working on I would say automatize I mean, is working on create a static website where the reports made by the student are going to be published. So we can use this static web page in p4.org to list all the, let's say, projects that students have made or they are going to make for GSOC. And more or less that's it. Regarding the kickoff meeting, due to that we are here, my idea is to, due to the fact that in the past 2 years, Andy and Nate did the introduction presentation. In my opinion, would be great if another member of the TST meeting is willing to do that. So I'm going to reach you out about that. Yes, that's it, more or less.
Great. Thank you. Sounds good. Any questions for David? So let's see. Some of these issues I think might be just quick updates. Let me see if we can get some of those out of the way. Um, I know we had I think a longish or longer discussion on the P4 workshop last time where we came up with the recommendation for the governing board that we'd prefer to have a full day event, even if that meant we weren't co-located with the OCP Global Summit, but maybe the same week as. Um, and if I believe, I think the governing board heard that and think that's a reasonable idea. Uh, and I don't think that we'll have any updates for that until we find out whether we get a full day acceptance at the OSP Global Summit, which might be sometime in May. Or is there any other thing to discuss that you know, or questions to ask that you know about that, Michelle, before we apply?
No, I reached out to the organizers for OCP and just said, we were happy with how last year went. We'd like to see if we could get a full day. So I'm
Mhm.
waiting to hear back from them. They tend to kind of gather all the requests and look at the overall agenda and kind of make their decision in like April, May. Um, so I'll let you know when I do hear back from them. The discussion that we had with the governing board after the last TST meeting, we took the TST and feedback from that discussion and talked about it at the governing board meeting was pretty similar as far as like the preference is a full day workshop at OCP, just from a organizational logistical standpoint. That's the easiest and most effective way to host the workshop. But if we can't get a full day, then the backup plan is to see if there's space at like Intel or Cisco or some other member that has facilities in San Jose, and we would host our own workshop that same week of OCP in the same geographical area so that folks who are traveling in for OCP can also attend our workshop, but we'll have the flexibility to have like a full day event rather than trying to shoehorn things into a half day at OCP. So it's all kind of hinging on what OCP comes back with space-wise. So until we know what that response is, we're kind of just waiting to see what option we have.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments on that today?
I'll throw out there that like we can still open the CFP in this spring and get folks, submitting for the program with that understanding that it's going to be in San Jose with that, within that week time frame as OCP. So if there are any folks who are interested in being on the program committee and helping to build out the CFP as far as like what agenda topics we want to look for, and then also review submissions, please let us know.
Do you
I think
normally do like like a application for the program committee, or you just
in the past,
Nope.
I think we've normally invited one or two people to be program committee chairs, and then they are really the kind of the say-so of who they invite to be in the program committee usually. But yeah,
okay?
I mean, if there are people they're not aware of, we can suggest people to them.
Okay.
Yeah, if folks are interested, I'm sure we can find a way for you to pitch in to help with this
Yeah,
event. So, um, yeah.
but yeah, I guess also think about if you have any ideas for who to invite to be program committee chair or co-program committee chair, that's probably a good thing to do first if you know anyone.
And also topics for the workshop, like we can talk about this a little bit further with the program committee chairs once they get established, but if folks have ideas for particular P4 topics that they would like to see be presented on at the workshop, that would also be super helpful just to get some of that feedback.
All right. This one may not be quick, but we talked briefly about, I think, about the possibly updating requirements to be eligible for serving on the TST before. The current requirements are roughly that you must have, it's either one or two contributions to a P4 Lang open source project in the calendar year up before the elections. Um, and at least once or twice in the past, I think that's involved somebody like hurrying up and creating a minor pull request just to become eligible. Um, so not that that's the worst thing in the world, but in a way it maybe seems a little artificial if it gets to that point. And was wondering, I mean, one small uh, proposed change would be the current condition, keep that, or alternately, if the current TST members agree to nominate the person to be eligible to serve on the TST, would be one sort of, leaving it up to the discretion of the TST, but allowing that first requirement to be bypassed, basically, in special cases. Does anyone, this is really maybe sort of more of a specifically the TST members, if you have any thoughts on adding that to our sort of procedures for eligibility. Any thoughts on that
In-
idea or some alternative to that idea?
And we can expand the contribution definition. I mean, a single contribution technical one is a low bar,
Yep.
but there should be some contribution, no, in some form. Or
Sure.
how do we determine qualifications?
I mean, I guess the one reason to suggest you know, agreement among the current TST members is they
Okay.
can kind of decide on like what a contribution is without having to spell it out in writing and, discuss it on a case by case basis.
Okay. Yes, that's an option.
I mean, if somebody was proposed that, had nothing to do with P4, the current TST members would probably say, who are they? Or, like,
Yeah, yeah.
interesting person, but what do they have to do with P4? Um, uh, so I guess the idea is that if you leave it up to the judgment of the TST members, they'll probably, have their own filters that are probably reasonable before they grant an exception to the current requirement, is my guess, or the intent. I mean, we could even put in some words like,
At the discretion of the TST. Okay.
yeah.
Sure.
A majority of the TST members agree that this person should be eligible for serving on the TST in the future. Uh, Something like that.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not sure when we need to invoke it, but yeah.
I mean, agreed. It's not hard to create a PR last minute if necessary. It just seems kind of like maybe artificial in cases where it becomes the sticking point.
I mean, to be fair, we had that happen in the last TST election that somebody was interested in running and hadn't done a contribution, and it was like a matter of quickly doing a
Fixing a typo or
contribution.
something.
It wasn't a heavy lift, if that makes sense. So I don't think it's really been a block up into this point, but if there's anyone who thinks that it could be or is creating some sort of kind of onerous hoop to jump through, this is the time to address it.
Any thoughts, Billy or Stefan, whether that slight broadening sounds reasonable or any objections or concerns?
I have no objections. I guess I also don't have much experience in this, so I don't have much input.
No objections from me.
Okay. Let's see. I guess we do we want to should we take it up for a vote just to make it semi-official or official? Do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, let me why don't
Or
we do
maybe
it
write
over
it maybe okay.
LFX, and I can like actually draft the right wording that will be the combination of this that actually makes logical sense, and then I can send that out so folks have a chance to read it and then vote.
Yep. Yeah, that makes
Sure.
sense to vote on something specific as opposed to vague. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Let me think. I think we have Brian here today. I don't want to keep him waiting too long if he has other things to do. Hello again, Brian. For
Yes.
folks who aren't aware, Brian is a contractor for P4 to help with various GitHub CI tasks and automation and packaging and various kinds of things like that. Any news any
No,
status or updates you want to share?
I have been, I mean, the update is that I will actually have time again for P4 starting now.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't have much to say in this particular meeting. I've just, for the last couple months, I was unexpectedly just busy with other commitments. But that is over now. So, just want to come and say hello, I'm back and going to start digging into things again next week.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure I know Fabian's not shy of sticking your name on adding your name on some GitHub issues if he's interested. So keep an eye out
Yeah.
for those.
Great. Yeah. David and I met at FOSDEM
Oh, nice.
about a month ago. That was cool.
Yeah, it was a pleasure also for me.
Yeah, it was my first time. That was quite an experience.
Yeah.
And it was quite full, but also good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was your description, Fabian?
Full,
Full.
packed.
Absolutely packed. I actually did not see a single talk. Because I didn't feel like stuffing myself into an overheated, overcrowded room. And everyone I went to was in that state. So it was pretty
Wow.
insane. But luckily I volunteered with the Fosden volunteers. So I got some, behind the scenes activity and got to meet some people that way. So I still had a good time.
A lot of hallway track time then if there's no talks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Let's see. I guess except if there, so I think we've covered everything on the proposed agenda other than an update on the AI generated tooling discussion, and then Billy has a new proposal that I want to make sure he has plenty of time for. Is there anything that I've missed already in the list that you notice or that you want to make sure we get time to talk about today before I let Billy have the floor? And you can, of course, suggest it after Billy's talk too. We'll probably have some time. Billy, are you ready to talk today about more about your proposal?
Yes. So basically, I have this proposal. I'm temporarily naming it P4 enhancement proposals, which is like, as you could see, inspired by the Python enhancement proposals or PEPs. I don't know. Maybe some of you are familiar with those. It's basically like a central repository that hosts a bunch of like mostly design docs, I would say, that is for the major Python language features, but also some other docs. But what I have in mind is mostly focusing on the technical design docs. And the main consideration for me is I feel for P4, we currently don't have a good organization of such docs. But yeah, my feeling is we have things that are sort of scattered around in several different places. And sometimes they are only in the meeting notes. And so I feel like for the purpose of long-term preservation and curation of such design docs, it might be useful to set up such a repository. And there are some other considerations. For example, there could be technical proposals that will touch several different components of P4, like both the P4 programming language and also the P4 runtime API and some other components. And for now, it's a bit challenge to find where to propose that, like concretely, like in which repo do we propose that. It might result in like several different issues like scattered in all these repos. So I think for that case, it might be useful that this is where people write their central proposal, and then all the related repos can refer to that. That's some of the thought. Yeah, I think that's the overall idea. And mostly I want to get some feedbacks here as to how people think about that. And yeah, that's my goal here.
So in my experience, I've often hacked up quickly some pretty basic slides to present some ideas that are involved. Um, Sometimes maybe another document in another form besides slides to write up my thoughts on a design. Uh, some of those I still have saved, but some, I probably couldn't find easily. Are you thinking like just sort of a way to kind of ensure that these things are saved as opposed to lost to the mists of time kind of thing?
That could be an idea. What I'm originally thinking is something maybe a bit more formal, like basically similar to the Python enhancement proposals. Like, so we
How do they
yeah
how do they do this with PEP? Do they have just GitHub and then they discuss them on GitHub, or how are these added
yeah
in the PEP?
yeah. So basically, they have a GitHub repo that hosts the original files. So I think they mostly discuss those on GitHub. That's my understanding. And the
Okay.
yeah.
And I've only maybe read one or two peps and not even in full because they can be quite long.
Yeah.
Uh, I have the impression or half memory that they sometimes include alternatives to what was decided upon as or discussion of advantage and disadvantage of different approaches, including
Yeah,
the
I
final one
think so.
taken.
Yeah, and I think that's very useful discussions, especially for people to understand why some technical decisions was made in the history.
Yeah, I think Python doesn't have a spec like us. I'm not sure if they do. I think it's all PEPs, right? Is that the
They
case?
do have, they also have specs like
They do have specs, okay.
yeah,
Because the
but
only
some
thing I'm thinking about is the overlap between a bunch of this stuff.
yeah, maybe I can clarify is that like is a spec is meant to be like much more concise and focusing on the final decisions made, like,
Yeah.
and in their specs they sometimes can refer to the corresponding PEPs that explain the feature in more detail.
Okay, yeah, I think that's actually quite nice. It's actually a good system. And so these PEPs, they specify build systems, they just specify style choices, linters, formatting, and so I think it's good to have that because we don't have a place for it. And
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it. I think it's a good idea. The question is, we have to fill that content, first of all.
Yeah.
And the second one, there's a bunch of duplication.
I mean, one would be, of course, is just for change proposals going forward, and backfilling is completely optional and up to the time and interest of the people doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That seems, and then like you could easily imagine the first one or two of those would be kind of experimenting and figuring out what isn't too heavyweight or lightweight.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good approach.
That's fine. I think I'm just looking at PEP 1 and PEP 2 and PEP 3, and I think they're pretty reasonable. It's just guidelines on how, yeah, PEP 3 is like, how do you handle a bug report? That's actually quite nice. And how do you file a bug report? What are standard modules? Yeah, this is actually not bad.
I think the ones that I read were on like new language features. I've forgotten which one
I'm
now, but
I'm just going back in time into the oldest versions. Since we would be starting with a P4 1, I guess. PEP 1. What do you call them? PAP? Or how would you?
I don't know. I think people call it PEP. I don't know.
Okay. But how would we call them then?
I don't know.
we could say PEP, the four is silent. Or
Yeah.
before app is a little bit awkward.
So yeah, I think it's a good idea. What I would propose is, so we have like a bunch of stuff now, right? We have this .github, which has some policies that are automatically filled in. We have the ideas repo, where people have ideas and project ideas that kind of random. It's just issues. We have the government's repository, which is P4 governments in general. It might make sense to maybe fold the governments or some of the stuff in there, because otherwise we have a bunch of technically central repositories, and it's also hard to keep track of. If you can feel that need, or find a structure to basically have that all in the same repository and have a nice README like Python, I think that would actually be really nice. And not
Yeah.
README, sorry, website, like a doc site, like a Doxygen site in some form.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a broader idea. So yeah, I don't know what's the best way to move forward. So my personal thought is this can start out as focusing only on technical design docs, but then we can figure out whether the scope should be expanded later. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's just yet another repo, a central repo that we have then, right? And it's
yeah. So yeah, I would say all the existing repos kind of are not focusing on like those detailed technical design docs that I feel is something missing. Yeah.
No, I agree. I'm just saying it would be. I mean, we can have a central repository for all of these meta discussions.
That
right?
I also agree. Yeah.
So you have the PEPs, you have project ideas, governments, GitHub. You can represent. Well, GitHub is different, I think, because it's some mechanism. And then you can represent that on a website, and you can have the PEP discussion in the same place, because otherwise you get lost. I'm getting lost in all the different kinds of places we can use.
Yeah, agree with that.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the Python PEPs. They're basically like a Doxygen website. So they're nicely formatted, easily readable. They use RSTs. Yeah, we can do that for all the other stuff too.
Yeah.
So I'm for it. But in terms of generating content, I'm not able to do that right now. Basically coming up with.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I can Yeah. So my current plan is, if people like this idea, I will probably also go to the working groups and see if they have ongoing proposal discussions, and I can try to see if they think this is a good place for them to write down their ongoing discussions if they have any of that, and then we can start from there.
You give a link to a particular issue. This is the one on the group default action, I think it is. In
Yes, I
runtime.
think that could be a good, yeah, that could fit this pretty well, because I think that is a proposal that touches on like several different components. And
Right. And so like the idea would be to start off like, what's the motivation? What's the desired effect? What are some of the trade-offs considered or alternatives considered and what do we
yeah,
think the best
yeah.
approach is
So yeah, for this,
and what needs to change to implement it fully?
yeah, yeah, I think that could be a starting
Yep.
point to show
And
how we can use this. Yeah.
and is the I don't do you know what like you would start writing one of these before it was actually implemented, I assume, and then it would change over the lifetime of that discussion. And once it was implemented, it would kind of be updated to reflect the actual what was done. Or is that how it
That
is that how Python peps work? I don't know.
I need to take a closer look. I don't fully
Okay.
like understand that workflow. Yeah.
I mean, certainly it'd be nice if it did eventually reflect what was actually done and why, or
Yeah, but
some
my high level understanding is that they will seal the doc at some point to say
yeah.
that is
Yep.
what has been done, at least in that version of Python. And
Right.
later, people might want to change that, but then they write a different doc
Got
to
it.
say, okay, we change this.
Makes sense. So it's kind of a living document until it's kind of gets to the point of implementation, perhaps, and then it's for a particular version,
That's my current theory.
and then
Yeah.
it's frozen or only open for corrections at that point.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
In the Haskell world, there's like three different proposal processes, and they all kind of work the same way. That it's a GitHub repo. You open a proposal, it's discussed, it's modified. There's a discussion about it. Uh, then there is a actual committee that like decides whether or not to approve the proposal, and then once it's approved, that's it might be modified for minor or like inconsequential fixes to the document after that fact, but it's put into the approved file, and then it's a historical document. This is the decision that we made.
Even before it was implemented?
That's a great question. For like the core library committee, their proposal is like you actually have to have an implementation plan and
Got it.
it as part of the proposal. But because that has been a problem that like something gets proposed and approved, and then nothing ever happens because there was not actually anybody like who could implement it.
P4 has a few things like that, but it's a shorter list. But it's not a long list.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure how big of a problem it is anymore. But I also think it's funny. I think at least one of these proposal repos, like the first proposal is to have a proposal process. And so it's like a meta, like let's kick things off. Let's like understand what the like structure of one of these documents looks like. That's something you could think about.
Well, I propose that this discussion and the first example of these be that discussion to keep it lightweight, hopefully a little lightweight.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this sounds like a great idea, Billy, especially if you're interested in doing some of the legwork, which
Okay, so
I'm happy to provide comments and review, and maybe if it's some technical content, but when it comes to like coming up to like setting up Oxygen and Sphinx and that kind of stuff and the website, I'll defer to others to
yeah,
help with those details.
That's something we can sort out later. Yeah.
So maybe
like the repos I know, they just rely on GitHub. Like it's just the GitHub rendered markdown is like is the web page for the proposals.
That's something
So you
I've
can keep it really lightweight if you want.
GitHub flavored Markdown. I know the subset, I know a subset of that with muscle memory now.
Yeah, that's great. So I just want to maybe concretize the next steps. I think I can volunteer to do some of the work, like to probably the first step I need maybe Fabian's help to just set up a repo, and then I can do something like,
Yes.
yeah. And then I will probably draft like something uh, as Brian like suggested, like just a proposal for the proposal, sort of in that repo. I will drop something like that, and so we can take a closer look. And
I mean, if you want, I would even like you could limit that to like a paragraph or two of like, hey, this is something we're going to try, and I'll flesh this out later if we
yeah, yeah,
like the actual first technical example proposal. I think is probably more
yeah.
something I hope you could jump into quickly without worrying too much about the meta proposal.
Yeah, that and for the actual technical proposal, I'm planning to discuss with Matthew with this example and see if he is willing to turn this into an example in that repo, and we can start from there. That's my thought.
So the name of that repository.
Yeah, that's
um,
any
yeah,
ideas, any suggestions?
yeah. I mean, governance is a nice one. Maybe it's too broad.
If it's
Basically,
just
you
for
can
the
focus.
like, who's going to make the decisions on whether to accept proposals or not?
Yeah, and there's a real big, like a little bit of carefulness we need to have around using the word governance because that
Yeah,
should
yeah.
really only refer to like the P4
Like
fund
bylaws.
charter and
Yes,
technical charter,
that's
things
okay.
that are like not that have to go through governing board and TST approval. So, using something more like documentation or specifications or something might be, um,
I,
Yeah,
yeah, we want to stay away from using the word governance.
I mean,
Okay, so we have a good reason to keep that repo separate. That's okay. That's good.
So I mean, if it's easier to have all of those kind of docs in one location, we can put them all in one location and it doesn't have to be on the wiki anymore. That's not the issue. It's more just like we don't want to call that overall
Okay,
site the governance site because that implies everything on there is
I
relevant
see.
to the
Okay.
governance. And there's really only two documents that define the governance for the project.
Yeah,
Everything
that
else is
makes
like
sense.
I mean,
operational stuff. So,
I don't mind the name P4EP, and we could either have the joke of PEP, the four is silent, or just call them P4EPs or something. But that's not
That's
it's not the
yeah,
worst name, and people will know by if they're familiar with Python, they'll know roughly the idea that we're going for.
yeah.
And as far as approval, I think, or approval process, it seems to me like whichever working groups are affected are hopefully involved in the decision, I would
I
think.
mean, I mean, we have a technical steering team. They need to do
Yeah.
some work
Yeah.
here, right? So so that's
Well, that's what
probably
I was
our
wondering
job.
is because
Yeah,
if it's going to be the TST, then like I would just call it the TST proposals
yeah,
repo or something like that.
yeah,
so there are other projects that set up sites like that, that aren't that kind of act as a catch-all for not just like technical proposals, but
yeah,
also include like the operational processes and like rather than a wiki kind of thing, everything is just gathered through this GitHub. Um,
yeah.
so we could set up something like that so that we're just eliminating redundancy if they're, but we, again, we could also switch to that later on and just focus on the
It's,
technical documents for now.
I mean, the main reason I brought up the redundancy is it's just hard to discover because you end up on the GitHub page and there's a bunch of repos and they do random stuff, and it's kind of hard to figure out for a newcomer um, where they would need to go if they want to have like broader discussions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's mostly it. And we don't have a good way to point there.
What
Eventually people
about,
find it, but that's it.
yeah, no, I totally agree. What about if right now, just because it sounds like there's consensus around starting something for at least the technical documents that Billy is recommending be a little more like collaborative and capture the historical process. If we get that going, and then maybe we need to schedule time within a working group or like just a one-off meeting to really go through the P4 GitHub org and identify like what is important that we need to kind of do a little bit of a cleanup and a reorg with input from other TST members or community members who have maybe noticed something. Because I think it's been a while since anyone has gone in and like reorganized things. I think Nate was probably the one who did that the most. And um,
Yeah, I did in the past. I archived a bunch of repos.
mhm.
I made them private that were supposed to be private, but that's it. We still have a lot of, it's basically an archive of history for a lot of this stuff. Um,
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily want to like like clean it out and get rid of that
yeah,
history, but there should be a way that we are prioritizing things so that they're more easily accessible.
yes,
Like I think I had to bookmark the governance wiki page because it's really difficult to get to just from like the
yes,
primary organization page.
yes.
And I know I haven't had the time to go in and try to like figure out why that is. So maybe just dedicating like a 30-minute working session with anybody who's interested in helping, and then we just kind of get on a Zoom and go through how to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah. I guess you're talking about the pins and oh, there's something we can do. So GitHub allows you to have a project level README nowadays.
Yeah.
So we can probably add this README and then we can point to the main repositories. Actually, when you basically go on github.com/p4lang, there will be actually an introductory README telling you which repos you can go to.
Yeah, and there's like a
Um,
bunch of stuff that's pinned that
oh, that pins? I actually did those.
okay,
So I pinned the most common repos,
perfect.
uh, but we can change that. I mean, that's
But yeah, I think like we have it on some of my other projects where it has kind of just a rundown of like, welcome
yeah,
to this project, and here's where we're about, and here are common links. And it just makes it a little bit more user friendly for somebody who knows nothing about the project, or even people like me who like, I don't go into the P4 GitHub that often, except when I'm
yeah,
looking for a particular link, of course. And then it's
yes.
hard to find. So anything we can do, I think.
So I think we can. I think the README might be a step, and we can see if it's sufficient. Maybe I
Okay.
do that when I have a sometime. It's some. It,
So
it's just
If you
basically, yeah,
Fabian, if I can get just like a Google Doc started for it. Unless you
yeah.
want to just start it as a repo and we can
No, no,
iterate
so
on it.
basically, it's super easy. So we have this thing called a .github repository. We already have that because we're trying something with the AI policy.
Okay.
And when you add a README to that, technically it should show up. And you put this README in the profile folder. It should show up on the starting page of the org. And then you can put whatever links, whatever formatting, whatever hints you want in there.
Okay.
And so we can format it in any way we want. I hope it works. I don't know how it's gonna look like, but I'm just linking the instructions.
Yeah.
Because Billy and me, we went through like creating this thing for some other stuff we were looking at. So
Okay.
now we have it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I see that in there. Do you want to take a swing at the README and then we
sure.
folks can review as needed? I'll see if I can spend some time in it in the next few weeks.
Yeah. And then we can organize just a bunch of links. Like governance, we can link and we can explain each repository. I think it might actually be useful.
Yeah, agreed.
starting with the most active and ending with the
Yeah,
historical archived, yeah, as kind of footnotes.
yeah, like history. You can put like history. These repos are not used anymore. Please don't do anything there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Here's why they exist,
Yeah, yeah,
to the best of our recollection.
exactly.
Cool. Okay. Well, thanks for getting that going, Fabian. And Billy, it sounds
Yeah.
like I love good documentation, so I'm a big fan of your proposal. But it's as the broader group also agree that that's a kind of some consensus because it's not really up to me. I'm not on the TST. I'm just providing unsolicited feedback.
I mean, and we're talking about the mechanism being the .github repo that has sort of organization level guide,
No, I think
or something else.
Billy's
Billy's idea, I definitely like, and am happy to, if somebody wants to at me on review requests on things, I'm happy to review things or even maybe even write sections as well. But it'll depend on mainly, my interest in a particular technical topic, especially. But the one he pointed at is one that I've already commented on pretty extensively, so happy to continue doing so. So yeah, I like this proposal, especially if I get to review it and not create it. Review
Yeah,
it and
right.
review it and enhance it and
Yeah.
add to it. Okay.
So
I'm
And
sure
then
we'll be,
Stefan, I guess you probably talked with Billy on this already, maybe.
Not actually,
Oh, okay.
but yeah. I don't know.
Is
I
Stefan
like
still
the
here?
idea.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
all right. This sounds like a topic we will definitely discuss in future meetings. So any other words people want to add today, or just let Billy start and draw us in as needed until the next meeting?
sounds good.
I think the only thing that I'm aware of, but again, if you have any other topics, feel free to mention them, is any follow-up or status on the uh, position on the use of AI generated tooling. I don't know if there's any updates there. I've lost track.
Yeah, for 10 minutes it might be a bit short, but I think we mostly discussed everything in the in the pull request. Oh wait, I think it's missing the actual
Yeah,
policy pull
Where I
request.
looked at
this
something.
is just copy and paste from last month. So if you have some update document to look at, feel free to add it.
I sent you an email last week, I think, to all TST meeting. I mean, yes, this is the.
Okay. Thank you for doing that. Sorry, I haven't reviewed it already.
I took a look at it. I thought it looked good.
Yeah, I think that mostly was just naming, and I think we iterated a bit on it to be a bit more lax because we are also using AI pretty extensively, and we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot.
Got it.
So,
Yes, indeed. I also think it looks great. Maybe as a little digression, I have been experimenting with sort of a radical, build from scratch and don't read the code and let AI do everything approach. So we may want to think about that at some point I think it doesn't work with code bases that were written by humans, and I definitely don't think we want to do that for our existing repos. But it could be worth considering if we need like a second branch or sub-org or something like that, where we experiment with that approach. But that's looking ahead. That could be personal repos for now.
a vibe coded P4C, basically, if you want to build one. It's
essentially.
Yeah.
So
that was your experiment?
No, I think.
So my experiment is called forward, for the number and then word. It's a vibe coded Beam v2, I suppose, with P4 runtime support, but with a lot of extra features. And I'm still in the middle of it. I started on Monday, and it's looking really good. So if this is something one can do in a week, I think human labor, I would assume something like 6 months. Yeah, then I think it's something we need to think about. But I guess this is probably a longer discussion. I would be very happy to talk about it, say, next time and tell you what I found. I don't want to be too early here. Maybe this is a horrible mistake, and maybe I'll report back after I know more.
I'm not referring to interview when I use the word idiot here, but it reminds me of a joke I heard. How do you keep an idiot in suspense? I'll tell you later. I'm not calling anybody. That's a separate joke that your comment reminded me of. I was like, oh, I have to wait till next month to find out. Okay, all right, I'll wait. So
Yeah, in the
I'm
meantime,
interested
I
to
guess
hear. I'm
people
interested to hear
people
how
are
that goes.
interested in this.
If you have interesting results, if you have something interesting or even slightly usable after 4 days, I'm definitely curious to hear
It's
more.
written in Kotlin.
I think it is usable already. Yes. Maybe. Sorry, I don't have. Actually, where are the notes? I'm not looking at the notes. I should just probably put a link at the notes. I have something interesting, which is the repo. You can just take a look and see what you think. And you can run it. It's you can build it and run it on Mac OS and Ubuntu, so it should be very easy. Just a single command. Yeah.
How fast can it process packets? I guess. Is it
I have no idea.
okay?
But by the way, it uses P4 test gen, so maybe I can say a few more words.
Okay.
The reason why this works so well is because we have done an amazing job, human job, right? Basically, this uses all the standard STF tests from P4C.
Yeah.
Then it uses P4 test gen. Then it uses
Oh.
BMV2. It's using differential testing against BMV2. And so if you combine those three things, you can have very high confidence that whatever you're building there does the right thing, right?
That's fun. That's really fun.
So that's kind of how I made it work. Like I don't need to trust the code. I need to trust the testing strategy. And it's very, very thorough because we have built all these tools that can help you with that. And then also we have written very, very good specifications. If you look at P4 versus other efforts, I mean, the P4 specifications are really good. And by the way, Andy, you have a repo with all kinds of markdown files, right? And of course, the LLMs have ingested all of that. And so thank you for that. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I was thinking, Andy, the way you write is actually perfect for an LLM because you're very specific. And you can just take an issue you write and put it into an LLM, and I think it would probably get there.
Interesting.
90% of the way. Yeah. It's very clear.
I thank you for the compliment. I strive for it. Usually my first drafts are far from that mark, but I get there eventually.
Yes. Or like thorough. Thoroughness is good.
Yep. I used
so
to
for
write
now,
long
I'll
emails, and I've
put a
given
link to the repo.
Yeah, I think we've got one in the meeting notes now.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think we have somebody added one of the meeting notes.
This could be
Okay,
a
then
talk
maybe
at some point. One of the Davide, what is our talk on Tuesdays usually? The P4.
Developer days.
The developer days. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. You could present this at the developer days at some point, just to see how it's like.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, I'm absolutely not saying I think this does not work for existing repos because it basically breaks all the best practices, right? Like again, like I'm not even reviewing this code essentially. So that's definitely not what we want to do for our existing code bases. But it's worth considering whether we need like a second organization for such experiments.
Well, it's a tool, right? At the end of the day, it's a tool and it needs to do a job. And if it does that job for you, I think that's good.
Yeah.
It's were you inspired by the Claude Code compiler thingy, or just in general? The
I was inspired by reading X. Well, I can tell you exactly what I was inspired by. I was listening to this Lex Friedman podcast with the OpenClaw
I also
inventor. Are you guys familiar with
Time
OpenClaw?
yeah.
So he wrote the whole thing in that style, and I used OpenClaw a little bit, and I'm like, this is fucking amazing. And he didn't write a single line of code, so I was like, okay, I should give this thing a try. And also, he provided some very concrete advice on how you do this, and so that was very helpful.
I also watched that.
My repo also has some advice. There's a few principles, actually very little, but that one needs to understand. That makes a huge difference.
Well, if somebody has a link to the talk that they found interesting, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I'd like to see that in the meeting notes if anybody has one here.
Yeah, let me put
it's
it
a great
also in the
discussion.
notes.
Oh yeah.
Am I
Okay, you
looking
already
at the
did
right
it.
meeting notes here? It's so I'll put a link.
Yeah, feel free to add them to the. Oops, I'm messing up everything. Cool. All right. Well, we are right at the top of the hour. Some folks might need to go. Feel free to go if you need to. But
Just
final
quickly,
comment?
the
Yep.
AI policy we handle asynchronously and just merge, or do we want to have a TST vote on it? I think all the TST members are present and agree, so it's.
I haven't read it, but I
Okay.
trust other people's review, but I will take a look at it.
Okay, we can just review it, give you approval, and if all the TST members give it an approval, we merge it. I think
that seems good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Surprisingly interesting discussion the last 5-10 minutes. Thanks, Steph. I like your column where you put EHH for your your summary of how easily modifiable DMV2 is.
Yeah, I was trying to. And this is also from OpenClaw. The guy was like, "Yeah, you need to have some fun," and I was like, told the AI to be a bit funny, and
give it
I
an
guess
attitude.
this was the result. I'm not sure I like it, but
that made me chuckle a little bit. Oh no, I like an AI.
It's not my style, I would say, but
I like an AI sense of humor. I'm starting to worry. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Good to see you, and see you next month, if not before.
You all.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.